to be talking about living with selective eaters. Welcome to Connecting Points. I'm Pauline Forshee. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm also a licensed nutritionist. And we're here at this session to open up the field of selective eaters and maybe to bring some enlightenment on our part and ease some of the stress for our selective eaters and to help prevent deficiencies. So with that said, I do need to acknowledge that this Q&A session, it's intended to provide public health information. I'm not intending to treat anyone in any way with medical nutritional therapy. This is an opportunity to have a dialogue about general health information. I want to jump in with this Bible verse from 2 Corinthians as Paul is writing to the Corinthians in his second letter. Chapter 5, verse 17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." I'd like to elaborate on that for just a minute using the Life Application Bible. I want to read what the scholars have said as they studied and they broke down this verse, and then we can talk about it. And so it says in chapter 5, verse 17, that while each individual becomes a new person, Paul implies so much more is actually occurring. Not only are believers changed from within, but a whole new order of creative power begins with Christ. We have a new covenant and a new perspective. We have a new spirit and a new community. We are not experiencing superficial change that will quickly fade away, but rather we are able to see an entirely new order of all of God's creation under Christ's authority. It requires a new way of looking at all people and all creation. So this verse is for the selective eater, but it is also for the rest of the household. It's for those of us who are cooking and preparing food as well for the selective eater. And it encourages us to have a fresh perspective of love and compassion from Christ's point of view. How would Jesus approach this person? He wouldn't approach them with a point of frustration. And he wouldn't stick the world's labels on this person as calling them a picky eater or a difficult eater. Those imply that something is wrong with this person. It implies negativity about this person. I was a very selective eater as a child. I had food allergies. There were foods that scared me. My mom's cooking was, she wasn't a great cook. And so I had these labels put upon me, and they were very difficult to overcome. And so rather, we as the more broad eater or the one preparing foods for them, we need to begin to strive to understand the root cause of why this person is a selective eater. And now that we ourselves are a new creation, we have God's ability to approach this issue in a new way, in a way that offers opportunity to show God's love. And so that's why this verse is really important. It's not just for the selective eater, but it's for you and I as well. Tonight, I want to be talking about these options. It's not about you and me. Selective eaters are not removing food groups or foods because they're out to make our lives difficult. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. And so that takes some of the frustration away when I recognize that this person isn't trying to make my life difficult. And then we want to ask permission. We want to ask permission to explore the foods that they do like. Hey, why do you like a carrot, but you don't like broccoli? What is it about the carrot? Is it smell? Does it smell sweeter to you? Is it the texture? Is it because it's smoother? Or is it visually? Does the color orange elicit a different feeling for you than when you look at the color or when you look at broccoli? So really ask permission. Seek permission to understand the selective eater's point of view. And I like to use the term selective eater instead of picky eater. Picky eater is a negative label that shuts down. Remember, negativity closes down, but when we approach it from a positive perspective, we open up. And a selective eater just means, thank you very much. I don't care for it right now, but I may choose to try it later. It gives me, as a selective eater, the opportunity to say, you know what, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm okay for right now, but maybe I'll try it later versus being labeled as a child like I was. Oh, Pauline's just a picky eater. She's not going to eat that. And it created friction in my family before I even said I didn't want to try it. Maybe it was something I did want to try, but because all of this negativity was spun up, I was getting sick to my stomach and that acid was building up in my stomach, and I really didn't want to eat. I had no desire to eat anything because of all of the anxiety that my family had spun up around me, and nobody even asked. Nobody sought to understand. I had texture issues. I couldn't handle the texture of gravy or jello, anything that was creamy like that. It made me gag. Nobody asked me that. They just said I was a picky eater.
Mm.
So seek to understand. Seek to understand these aversions. For me, it was texture. For other people, it's smell. Some people visually, they have reminders and visual and memory. Memory plays a big factor in why some people become selective eaters. You know, if mom and dad are fighting at the dinner table every night when we have Brussels sprouts, then I'm going to attach a negativity to Brussels sprouts
Mhm.
because it brings back a bad memory for me. So seek to understand why somebody may have an aversion to something. Then it makes it easier to find solutions. For example, my husband's given me permission to share because he's my selective eater. And I've asked him, why do you not eat fruit? Because my husband eats very, very little fruit. I said, what is it about fruit that you don't like? And he doesn't like sweet. He likes savory. And so I know that I can get him to eat about a half a serving of grapes at night because he will eat grapes. And that means I need to be strategic the rest of the day to figure out how to make fruits a little more savory for him so that he will accept them. Or when is a better time? He will drink a serving of orange juice very first thing in the morning. Okay, I got a serving and a half of fruit setting, half a serving of grapes and a serving of orange juice, right? I have to be strategic, but I had to seek to understand. He prefers savory. Okay, what fruits do you like and how can I get some into you today? I had to seek to understand and I had to ask permission to explore why. Remember, we all have foods that are very sensitive. Food's a sensitive topic, right? I mean, we have a lot of emotion invested in food. So we always want to remember to seek to understand and ask permission. Ask permission. All right. Try foods three ways. This is a way that I think again opens up opportunity. We're always trying to expand our selective eaters field of options. We want to expand our influence of options for them. So what I mean by try three ways, if we're eating something raw, like a piece of fruit, then I try the fruit by itself. I try the fruit with a dip, maybe like a yogurt and a nut butter dip. And then I try it mixed in something, maybe a salad. So I try it by itself, I try it with a dip, and I try it mixed in with another food. If it's something that's going to be cooked, so if I'm going to introduce, hmm, well, broccoli. Broccoli is one of those that people either like it or they don't. Um, Ask them to try it raw because raw broccoli tastes very different than cooked broccoli to me. Try it raw and then try it maybe with a melted cheese sauce, like steam the broccoli and add creamy cheese sauce. That's one way that a lot of people will eat broccoli. I have pushback when I mention trying a cheese sauce, and parents will say to me, yes, but they shouldn't have all that fat from the cheese. And my pushback is I'm providing options. And one option is that they are eating the broccoli along with the cheese sauce. So they are getting the nutrition from the broccoli. Eventually, we can pull back on the cheese sauce, but it is a bridge to get them to try the broccoli. And then another way is to mix it into a casserole, mix it in with maybe potatoes, another food that we know that they like. So mix it in another option. And then to puree them as part of the ingredient list. So when we write out a recipe, just include, pardon me, just include them on the recipe and then run them through the food processor or buy riced broccoli and add it into your pizza sauce. Add it into your marinara sauce. Little green pieces of riced broccoli look like oregano. We don't have to make a big deal about it. When I create and spin up and make a big deal that I'm adding riced broccoli to pizza sauce, now that puts that person at a point of stress and agitation. But if I don't say anything, it's just part of making the dish, that's no big deal. It's an acceptable norm. I can ask them to help as well. So when I'm doing this and I'm adding it into the ingredient list, I want to point out that we're preventing deficiencies by doing that. We're preventing vitamin deficiencies. We are increasing nutrition that that person is receiving, and we're preventing chronic illness. And so some people say, well, when you do that, Pauline, you're being sneaky. I don't think so. My family doesn't read my recipe cards. They don't go in and read my cookbook when I'm in the kitchen cooking. They just assume that I'm putting a meal together. And if they can't see it and I don't make a big deal about it, I'm not being sneaky. I'm preventing deficiencies. I'm increasing nutrition and I'm helping to prevent chronic illness. So, food for thought, it's an opportunity to increase nutrition. When we ask someone to help in the kitchen, that is a selective eater. There's some guidelines to that. Start off slow and small. Hey, sweetheart, will you help me put groceries away? No expectation that they're going to eat anything. Just come help me put groceries away. Now they're seeing it visually, they're touching it, they're storing it. They learn if it's a dry good or if it goes in the refrigerator. They're becoming more familiar with the food in a very unthreatening environment. Then maybe I ask them to help prepare the meal with that food. Again, no expectation that they're going to eat it, no expectation that they're even going to put it in their mouth. Just, hey, help me create this dish. Can you rinse the broccoli for me? Can you dice it up for me? Can you throw it into the dish? No, I don't expect you to eat it. I just need your help. So they understand, very non-threatening. I'm just helping them to become more familiar with the food. I'm increasing familiarity. Open dialogue. While they're in the kitchen helping, it's an opportunity to have the conversation. We can talk about the meal and how this meal provides nutrition from each of the food groups. Hey, which food group does this come from? Do you know how this food is grown? Do you know where it comes from? And you do that with all of the foods that we're cooking. Now we're increasing knowledge, we're increasing education, we're helping them to become more familiar, more comfortable being around that food. Talk about any experiences that we have. Maybe you helped your grandmother in the kitchen. My grandmother was an amazing cook. I was the only granddaughter, and so I was in the kitchen a lot with my grandmother. I have great memories around certain foods. I have great memories of food that my grandmother would cook for me when I was sick and that were meaningful and special to me. Ask this person, hey, are there any foods that you have good memories about around that food? And again, it helps them to become more comfortable being in the kitchen. Allow foods to just sit on somebody's plate. Zero expectations that that food is going to go anywhere other than in the garbage after the meal. But just let it sit on their plate. It helps to reduce their agitation. It helps to reduce stress. Talk about it. How does it look next to the other foods? Is it appealing? If not, why? We can't use words like gross and disgusting. Just tell me why. Why do you find it gross? Why is it disgusting? Expand your thoughts. And then talk about color theory and how it's balanced on the plate or it's not balanced. What would be a different food that they would use in place of? Again, always keeping dialogue open and understand that there will be some negativity. There will be some pushback. They're going to have lots of negative things to say about this food at first. But remember, it's not about me and it's not about you. We're helping to provide a safe environment where they're going to be able to discuss their feelings about this food so that they may become more comfortable in the future. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And I'd like to read again from the study Bible and what Paul wrote regarding this. So Paul wrote that love endures forever. Human qualities and its very essence of God himself. Love involves unselfish service to others. We just continue sharing the food. We keep continuing to have open, safe dialogue. Faith is the foundation and the content of God's message. Hope is the attitude and our focus, but love is the action. When faith and hope are in line, we're free to love completely because we understand how God loves. And when we approach selective eaters from this mindset, we're giving them an even playing field to learn, to experience, and to communicate. And understand that this is a long journey. People are selective eaters for reasons that maybe they don't understand. Maybe their taste buds are hypersensitive, and that can happen. Or maybe, again, they've had a bad experience with foods. And so we have the patience of Jesus. We can help them through this journey. I'm going to quit sharing my screen and I'm going to open this up for dialogue and Q&A. This, I want to make sure that you understand the next connecting points. For the month of November, they will be November 6th, and we're going to be talking about balancing nutrition and food cravings. Did you know when we have cravings, we may be deficient in certain vitamins and minerals? And so we're going to talk about what some food cravings mean and deficiencies that they could be indicating. And November 20th, we're going to talk about non-pharmaceutical techniques to reduce stress. And I love these two. I think as we're rolling into the holidays, that these are both really important topics to talk about. Christmas time cravings, Thanksgiving cravings, they're going to be there. We may decide that we want a couple extra Christmas cookies, right? And that's okay for the holidays. We're going to talk about the stress and ways to reduce that holiday stress with non-pharmaceutical techniques. So those are November's connecting points. And you want to make sure that if you're not currently following me on social media, you can find Joy Rising Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel and also on LinkedIn.